If you're going to work on small engines, you want to invest in a small torque wrench that's calibrated in inch-pounds, because 9 foot-pounds is 108 inch-pounds. Basically, you take the 9 and you multiply it by 12 to convert foot-pounds to inch-pounds. And that's not a lot. It's a small bolt, so it's not a lot of torque. You can't use a big torque wrench. It won't work. So I invested in a small one. This is a Craftsman, so not top of the line, not uber expensive, but still decent quality. Now that I've got this bolt torqued, I can now install the oil pump. If you didn't disassemble your entire oil pump, then you can just put it in as an assembly. Since I took it apart this way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually reassemble the oil pump on the bench as far as putting the gear and the cover in place in the shaft, and then install it. So what I got to do is I've got to reinstall this little shaft. It's got a little keyway, it's going to go down in there. So I just got to get that lined up. That's going to be a little persnickety. So I got to get it just right so that that slides in there. So install the shaft, then install the gear, and now I can install the cover. Okay, the manual tells you that if you're taking these screws out to tighten with 2 foot-pounds or 24 inch-pounds, but then it doesn't bother telling you how tight to make the cover screws here. All I can tell you is you want to snug them up and don't overdo it, because that aluminum's real soft and you don't want to strip it out, cause any problems. So, alright, so first, before you put the oil pump in, you need to install these O-rings. If you're replacing these O-rings, you want to oil them. Give them a light coat of clean engine oil. Alright, I admit it, I'm reusing these O-rings. Don't tell anybody. Oh, I did it again. You gotta install this oil pump drive gear on the crankshaft before you put the pump on, because this collar won't go on with the pump in the way. Oh! Alright, I just took the cover and the gear off. Or you could go through the holes, take that all out. Put this collar on first, the beveled edge facing out. Then install the drive gear. There we go. Drive gear. Then lock washer. And then the nut. Oh, wow. This nut is trashed. I didn't notice that when I was taking it apart. I don't know. Let's see if there's just garbage in the threads or if those threads are toast. Huh. Alright, nope, threads are fine. They were just so full of that crud. I don't know if you remember that sludge that I had to clean out of the crankcase. It was a combination of ground up very fine metal filings and engine oil. But anyways, I cleaned that up, so now I should be able to torque that on there okay. The torque on this is 29 foot-pounds. That's foot-pounds, not inch-pounds. Foot-pounds. Now before you install the nut, you have to install this little pin. This tiny pin that fell out when I was disassembling it, and I found out that goes in here. So let's see, I got that over here. Now the way you're supposed to hold this while you're tightening this nut is actually a special tool. It's got its own little part number and everything, and basically it's a little doohickey that sits in between these teeth, so that when you go to turn this, the teeth don't move. That's actually sits on this side when you're disassembling it, keeps it from wanting to turn when you go to unscrew it. Not sure. I'm assuming you just would insert. I don't know what it looks like because I don't have one. I'm assuming you just insert it on this side for reassembly. Anyways, so I'm going to install the outer clutch housing here. That goes on first. Then this spline washer goes on next. like that. And then your inner clutch packs, which I've got off to the side over here. Inner clutch pack. Oh, I actually haven't cleaned that yet, so I gotta clean it up. Alright, once the clutch packs are installed, then you install the snap ring that came out of here. And there's actually a little cutout area right here to help get the snap ring pliers in there. Alright, now I'm going to tighten my mounting screws. Alright, so this is my tool that I'm going to use. Probably going to make some people cringe, but basically that's going to lock in there just like that. So when I go to change the gears here, got my big torque wrench, and that's going to allow me, I'm going to put this down, but that's going to allow me to tighten this nut, and it's going to keep the gear from turning. Alright, that worked fine. 39 foot-pounds isn't a huge amount of torque, so it's not like I was going to snap these teeth off. Alright, so I'll get that torque down. This is all tightened up. Tighten those two up. Looking good. Got the snap ring in here. Alright, going to put the Kickstarter collar and return spring back on. Alright, so the way you put this together as far as the Kickstarter collar and recoil spring is you have to make sure you've got this in this position here. You want this hole that's on the shaft right here to be facing the rear of the motor. And when you look at the manual, it actually shows that, but it shows it from a point of view from this direction, so it's kind of deceiving. It makes you think that that's supposed to be on the bottom, but it's not. At least that's what I thought. But anyways, the other dead giveaway is it shows how the spring, basically, this collar is going to go on, the slot has to go so that that hole is going to be exposed, like that. And then the spring, where's the spring? The spring is going to go on this way. So what we're going to do is we're going to, oops, I'm going to slide this in there so that this part of the spring that sticks down is going to sit in this groove. That's going to slide down. Come on. Alright, obviously you need more than one hand to do this. But what I'm doing is I'm getting this spring, this end of the spring here where my finger is going to go down in that hole. And then the collar slides down around it. And then this part of the spring has to be pulled up, then it's going to be under tension. You're going to pull it up and you're going to snap it into position. It actually hooks on this little protrusion here in the case. Okay, a lot easier to do this with the collar out. So I've got it in where it's supposed to be. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the collar down and engage that. Well, that doesn't work so well because then you can't really get the collar to slide down because this side of the spring's pushing against the shaft. But then if you unhook this, you could slide it in. It doesn't fall out. And now I just got to bring this back up and hook it. So it's going to take some fussing, but eventually you'll get it to work. Okay, this is what it's going to look like when you got it in correctly. This is going to be engaging this. And you can tell that it's in the hole where it's supposed to be because it's nice and straight. You can tell the collar's in where it's supposed to be because it's not sticking out way over here. It's already pushed all the way down in. Now I'm just temporarily installing my Kickstarter, and I'm going to just test this out. And then I'm going to you got to be real careful because this whole side of the shaft isn't supported by anything until you get the case on. So I'm just going to gently work it to see how it's working. Ideally, I wish it was in neutral. You can throw your shifter lever on there and actually probably rotate the crank and get it going to neutral. But the problem is you can't really rotate the crank a lot because your timing chain keeps getting them fouled up. So anyways. Alright, I can't do this and hold the camera at the same time, but just so you know what I did. Basically, I've got my my little safety wire here, really, I got a big loop in it. It's nice and loose so that the chain won't get bound up on it. I hold this loosely with my fingers and let the chain slide through my fingers, and then I actually work the crank. Or maybe I can do this. But you get the idea. And you get a nice click when it comes back up. So I'm satisfied that that is installed correctly. Alright, I'm going to quit right here because I've got to get going. I've got another appointment. And basically what I've got left to do next time when I come back, I've got to install this little tiny spring and oil through pin, I think is what they call it, or whatever the heck it is that goes in here. I've got to install the little tiny bearing and the little piece that rides on here. That the clutch activation lever rides on, and I've got to put in my new oil screen, and then of course I've got to I'm going to clean up those surfaces with some solvent and install the gasket with some gasket sealant, RTV, and this outer case can go on.